We're live. It's been a long time since I've been live. Maybe a month? Welcome, everybody. Come on in. It's going to be a really fun day today. I'm doing something that I didn't want to do. I really didn't. But something clicked in my brain where because I didn't want to do it, I was thinking, well, maybe I should do it because I feel like I'm getting a little old sometimes. And I want to challenge myself. Today's little challenge, and it's a workshop because I've got plenty to share with you, stuff that I've learned and stuff that I've made mistakes on in the past about how to make 2D games. But there's also stuff that I've learned just by practicing this workshop. I practiced it early this morning and yesterday. And yeah, you're going to learn a ton. I hope you are. We're going to recreate Hollow Knight, specifically a scene from Silksong. And look, it's not gonna look as perfect as Team Cherries, but I think it's gonna look pretty good and it's gonna feel pretty good. Today we're gonna focus specifically on the art assets, how exactly those art assets were made. Now I can't tell you exactly how they were made, but I can tell you how I would do it if I was to try and do that style. So let's go ahead and jump in today. And by the way, let me double check here. Let me open this up here. And let me know if my microphone's popping or anything like that. But guys, there's a link in the description and also a pinned comment. And it's not a gimmick or anything. It's a free game kit. And I just redid this game kit. I redid this game kit last week for you guys. So I thought maybe I could sell it. And then I was like, no, we're not going to sell it. Let's just go ahead and let people have it for the price of an email address, right? So if you click get it now, this game kit I haven't updated the tutorial yet, but the game kit is on GitHub here. And this is the game kit. It's right here. This game kit is how I would make a 2D platformer like Hollow Knight. This is what I would do. And this is after like 10 years of making 2D games. It is actually a perspective camera. This is the first time I've ever recommended a perspective camera. Yeah, it's a perspective camera and it has fog. So if we hit play here, this is actually fog right here. So this is Unity's built-in fog. It also has depth of field post-processing. Both of these had to be achieved with a specific shader that Claude helped me with. Claude's a buddy of mine. And this is used to create that Hollow Knight feel, okay? So this is about as basic as it gets in terms of a game kit. The ability to punch, break things, collect coins, jump, right? Pretty smooth character controller. The shader, I need to link it in the game kit description, but the shader was written by somebody. It was a free public shader, and then I updated it to be for, I believe, for URP. I can't remember, but also I updated the shader to incorporate post-processing blur. There is a ton here that is just after 10 years of making 2D games. Specifically how I handle parallax layers, how I handle the fog and the way the camera moves, all of that stuff, and how the art assets are going to be handled. A ton of that is just from 10 years of making games. Yeah, the Claude guy is actually he's really smart. He's super confident sometimes though, and I tend to trust him a little too much. But I'm showing you this game kit right now because guys, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take this game kit, super simple game kit, and I'm just going to overlay the art that we create today into this game kit. Now, I'm not going to dig into too many weeds here with the game kit, but I am going to tell you, this is all art, okay? This is not actually colliders or anything interactive here, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to be dressing up a very simple scene with art that we're going to create in Photoshop. So I have a folder here called blockout, and then I have a folder here called art, not a folder, but a game object. And this is on parallax layer 0. You'll notice it's at the 0 on the z-axis. This layer here, we have these blockout colliders. If I pull it up, you could see it. Okay, we're gonna get, by the way, we're getting into the workshop right now. So start writing some notes here. I have a suspicion, I could be completely wrong, but I have a suspicion that Team Cherry uses a blockout first, and then they dress it with sprites. In my opinion, they block out the entire game before they dress it. Now, they may dress, I could be completely wrong here, but they may dress certain scenes to get an idea of how it should feel. But when they start producing a level, my theory is that they block it out with something like this. Just white blocks, right? If I go to 2D mode, this is what it looks like. White blocks here, okay? If I hide it and I enter play mode, they disable. So when I enter play mode, I have a script on here on the parent called hide sprite on enable. And when I hit play here, it just hides those sprites. Let me fix that really quick here. Go back in time. There we go. Okay. So if I hit play right here, it hides that block out. It looks like I'm walking on top of this, right? But it's actually, I'm walking on top of those white sprites, but the renderer is disabled. And the reason why is so that we can create these hyper complex looking scenes where it looks like I'm walking on top of bones and stones and drones and cones. But in reality, it's just a clean, simple, smooth block out. Now, I want to mention this really quick, and then we're going to jump into the art. Will this video be deleted soon, or can we rewatch it? Yeah, you'll be able to rewatch this for sure. Okay, and by the way, guys, how's the sound? Am I popping? Am I having plosives at all? A lot of people think that gray boxing is for like you're testing out the level, which is true. But at the end of the day, that is the level. And then the set dressing is it makes it feel different, but it's the same. You still have that gray box underneath. It's just disabled. The render is disabled. It's all good? Okay. So why am I using a blockout like this? Because let's say I have like a roundish looking sprite, maybe a log or something that's kind of got a round shape to it. I don't want that to be the actual collider. I want the collider to be a box, okay? And you might be thinking, well, just put a box collider on the 2D sprite. Maybe. But what I like to do is have it super clean and simple so that I can snap. So if I turn on snapping here and set it to 1, I can quickly snap this block. Look at this. Quickly snap the block out. And I've talked about this in previous live streams where when you have a grid, it's so much funner to play. And it's also easier to build a level, right? Let me go ahead and let my dog out. He's about to start barking. So when everything's a grid, when everything is a grid, and you know the player's jump height, the game feels so much funner, and it's also easier to design your level. It's also easier to use a grid when you're using a simple block out first. Does that make sense? I'm doing very well, thank you. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into Photoshop and work on our art, okay? So here we are in Photoshop, and this is the art that I've put together to start the stream. And it's not the greatest looking art, but to prove it to you that I did do it, this is sort of a sketch I did of that first scene in Hollow Knight, right? Or in Silksong. And it's not great, you know, it's a simple piece of paper. Super simple piece of paper and just a standard pen. If it'll just go in focus. Come on, dude. There it is. Super simple pen. Sharpie. Okay? There are some additional pieces of art that I did, like this one here. And some of them I didn't like and just scrapped them out. And I'm just drawing as best as I can. But the truth is that when it comes to my art style, I'm a very geometric artist. I treat it almost like it's vector art or UI. It's very geometric. And so I like to use just a simple mouse. So we're going to approach this perhaps a little differently than Team Cherry would. And it's not going to look as good as Team Cherry's. But we can actually mimic that hand-drawn feel. Okay, so I took a photo of, just a simple photo of the art, and I brought it into Photoshop, and I cut it out so that all that's left is the black, okay? So I'm going to grab my magic wand here just to show you how to do it with this one here as well. Sorry, my daughter's crying here. Okay, so here's how we do it. Just to show you an example of how we take this piece of art and cut it out. That's it. Now I can change the tolerance, all that. But overall, that's what I want. I want to set it to not contiguous so that it grabs everything that's that same color. I'm going to press Control-C, paste it in, and now I have this right here. Now, why do I want this here? So that I can obviously have character art. That would be nice. But we're not going to animate this character art today or do anything like that. But I do want its size. Okay, I want to know its exact size. And so this is probably a good relative size. And it's good to have your character in the shot when you're working on the art for your game, especially 2D art. Well, honestly, 2D or 3D. You want it in the scene and in Blender or in Photoshop while you're working on everything else. Otherwise, everything looks off. Can you imagine if I didn't have this here and I'm trying to draw this? It's like, what is the size of this world? I have no idea. Also, you want your line widths to be equal. So I want to make sure all of my line widths are equal in size and they look about equal here. So we're good. So I'm going to just cut out some pieces here. I'm going to use the lasso tool here and just cut all of this away so that all I have is that. Okay. So there we go. I'm going to rotate it just a little bit. That looks like crap. And this is one of those things where I don't know what Team Cherry did, but if it were me, I would definitely be doing a ton of kit bashing. I call it kit bashing. I don't know the right word, but just tweaking my own sketches and making them look better in Photoshop. So stuff like that, making lines straighter, cleaning things up, right? So I could do that all day. That's totally fine. And then I can finish it up, right? I could say, you know what? This needs to go down here. Okay, so does everybody understand so far what we're doing? Does this make sense? So all I have is black line art. Now, I want to make sure my line art is closed. So I had to go in this morning. I got up real early for you guys. I got up at 5 o'clock this morning to get to work on this so that we could have a clean start for this workshop. I wanted all of these pieces of art to be closed. What I mean is there's no line that's like open here. There might be one right there, which might be a problem. I want it closed because it's going to make it way easier. I'm going to merge this together really quick. It's going to make it way easier to just fill in all this art. So if I wanted to go, you know what, this is green, blah, 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 I can just fill it in really quick, right? So this one is right here. There we go. So I can just fill it in, right? Okay. So they're all closed. What I've also done, I'm going to explain a few more things here and then we'll start doing the artwork. Does anyone have any questions? Does anyone have any questions about how this is done? And again, for full clarity here, I just took a picture of this with my phone. Now, if I were Team Cherry and I had a bajillion dollars, I would use a really nice scanner, right? And scan it all in. Okay, what I've also done is I've just slowly faded out the edges just a little bit. See that? Just slowly faded out these edges just a tad, just to make it feel a little bit more hand-drawn. But that's really not that important. I might even just make it a little bit darker. Yeah, that looks much better. I'm going to merge those two together. I'm going to make sure I have a backup available here, just in case I need that line art in the future. Okay, so this is going to be called our line art. Are you guys ready to start coloring? I mean, you're really kind of creating, I guess, a coloring page book. That's kind of what we have here. And now we're just going to color it and have some fun, right? Getting to this point, this is why I respect Team Cherry so much, because I figured this out yesterday and today. Getting to this point was a pain in the butt. And I want you guys to practice this. This is why I don't use line art in my games. In my 2D games, they're always vector art. There's no lines. When you use lines, especially hand-drawn, you have to go through this whole sketching process. Now, obviously, you can do it with a Wacom pen in Photoshop, or if you really want it to look hand-drawn, you do it on paper and scan it in. It is it is such a painful process. I remember I started doing this yesterday to practice, and I was like, I'm not going to do this workshop. This is impossible. But I kind of got it figured out. Now, there are some parts here that I want to clean up, okay? In particular, I really don't like this. This is bugging me for some reason. So I'm going to fill that in a little bit. I'm just going to grab this black here and just sort of do a gradient there. That looks better. That was bothering me. Let's think of any other pieces that I need to clean up here. Yes, let's clean up the ears here. Any questions, guys, while I do some art here? Yeah, it's all hand-drawn animation too. That's right. There's no bones and there's no like tweening. It's outrageous. You know, when I play Hollow Knight, I'm like, wow, this game is really simple. It's not. It looks, that's why you see so many people doing clones of Hollow Knight, because it looks like, oh, I could make a game like that. No, it's way harder. And this is coming from somebody who's, you know, I've made 2 commercial 2D games released on every platform. I never made one with this process because it's so painstaking. Now maybe Team Cherry got it figured out, you know. Okay, let's go ahead and start filling in the artwork. Okay, so I've got a color palette here. To the best of my knowledge, this is the color palette used in Hollow Knight or in Silksong. I can't remember what the name of the level is. Does anyone remember what the name of the level is? The first level? But let's go ahead and start filling in our colors. You always want to have a color. Man, I'm talking a lot, guys. I'm so sorry. But hopefully this helps you. In Hollow Knight, there's typically a neutral and then a pop of color. Any color variation is done with lighting or post-processing. And then there's a pop of color with the player. So this is the neutral, which is like stone and bones and wood. And then this is the color, which is like the grass or the bushes or the moss, right? What's it called? Moss something? The level is called Moss Grotto. That's right. So let's go ahead and find a mid-range so that we can sort of fill in the middle the midtones, and then we'll use the highlights and the lowlights for the obviously highlights and lowlights. So let's start filling in. See how simple this is? That's why it's really important to set up your art early and to do it right and have a strategy. So in order to build a strategy, you have to know how to do it, right? And so you have to practice and go, okay, what's my workflow here? And so for me, this is my workflow. I could be completely wrong here, but this might be Team Cherry's approach. That's fine enough for now. Oh, there's some moss there. Okay. I forgot to grab her color. Let me grab that really quick. It's like a sort of a burnt red. Moss Grotto. Let's get a screenshot here. There it is. And by the way, yeah, so the goal here is to do something like this. This shot here. Okay, let's grab her color. Let me get a higher res one. And by the way, as we move through this today, is Thomas, are we ripping off Team Cherry? Is that the goal here today? Who knows what my goal is for today's workshop? It's not to rip off Team Cherry. Heck no. The goal is to learn. Okay, how did they do this? The fastest way to learn how to do something, let's make this black. The fastest way, in my opinion, and the most effective way to learn how to do something is to do it. If you want to make a game like Hollow Knight, don't make a game like Hollow Knight. Don't do that. Make Hollow Knight. Go in there and say, okay, I'm going to make a little vignette and see do it exactly how they did it and see what they did. Because you're going to learn along the way all these tricks and techniques that you didn't know otherwise. Does that make sense? Now, Team Cherry, they don't do sharp pointed lines like I do here, but I'm going to do sharp pointed lines. I don't think they do. Okay, and then let's find the color here. Okay, it's pure white. Well, it's almost pure white. Let's see here. Yep, absolutely pure white, which is nuts. I never use pure white, but you learn, you know, you're like, okay, there we go. We've got pure white here. Okay. I'm going to take a screenshot of Hollow Knight. I'm going to put it in the background here, just to make sure everything's looking good here. And obviously we're going to be using lighting, or at least mimicking lighting in Unity. Okay, this file's not found. That's not good. Let me go ahead and save this really quick. Apparently this file got moved. Okay, anybody have any questions? Well, we're gonna go through Silksong movement. Yeah, tomorrow my hope is to go through how the animation works and the character controller and the sound. This is not going to be an easy workshop for me. This is going to be one of my more challenging ones. It's going to be tough. I've been nervous about this for the last 2 days, to be completely honest. Okay, so let's grab the. I don't believe that's the stone color. I really don't believe it. Let's double check. No, it is. Yep, it is. We just have to use highlights to our to the player's advantage, meaning highlights are going to be used to, I don't know what that is. Yeah, highlights are going to be used to indicate what the player can step on. Super dark. Let's go to white here. Yeah, that's so dark. Let's go a little bit brighter here. That's crazy, man. There we go. So as you can see, the colors are really interesting, right? You've got like a greenish gray. It looks like gray in Hollow Knight or in Silksong, but it might be this greenish color, right? Now, it depends on what the post-processing is doing. I'm going to trust my gut here, and I'm going to go a little bit grayer. I'm just going to trust my gut here. There we go. That's the color we're going to choose. I'm just going to have to make an executive decision there. And we're just going to start filling in all of the colors here. What's going to make it pop is our highlights and our lowlights and how we go about doing that. I've got a little tricky process of how I'm going to do it. Okay, I'm going to assume that white, let's see here. The needle is white. Yep. Nope, the needle is that brown. Yep. Okay. Cool. Let's keep going here. And by the way, those of you just joining us, remember you can download the 2D game kit. It's brand new. I made it last week. You can download that to build a game like Hollow Knight. Let's use this color here. There we go. White head, sort of a brownish needle there. Okay, let's get the stone colors here. Start filling in. I'm going to merge all this together. It's driving me nuts. Start filling in here. I'm going to grab the outlines here and put them on their own layer. Yeah, we're definitely going to need to do that. We're going to need them on their own layer. So this is another trick. I have my line art here, right? I have one on top of this, and then I'm going to use this bottom layer to just fill in. And the reason why we're going to do this is so that we can paint underneath the lines when we do shading. Okay, let's keep going. So far, I feel pretty good. How you guys feeling? Everybody good? Okay. Oh, and by the way, guys, what took this line art so long for me was getting the size of the line art thick enough to look correct. There's something about Hollow Knight where it looks messily drawn, and it looks like the lines are really thick, but everything's consistently sized and it feels great. It's just like the perfect line size. So I had to practice it, and I did get it. I think I got it perfect, but I probably didn't. So we'll see. I'm going to duplicate this top layer so that the black is a little bit stronger and merge that together. Okay, so I have these black lines here, and then I'm going to have underneath it. This is going to really help you guys, okay? And this, I can guarantee you that Team Cherry did not do what I'm about to do, okay? But I'm going to show you a trick that's going to help me as someone who doesn't usually sketch my art. I'm going to delete the lines, okay? Using that magic wand tool. So I have that, and then I have the lines on top, right? See that? Let's make sure that we get all of this, though, because it looks like we missed some of it. Paste that down there. There we go. So we have our lines, and then we have our colors, right? I'm going to make sure that this is filled in below. Okay, same with this one, because this is a little faded right here, so you can see it looks a little gray. It shouldn't. It should look, there we go. There we go. Okay. All right, so we have our colors beneath. Looks like we're missing something here. Hold on. We're going to merge these together. There we go. Merge those colors together. Okay, so what do we got here? I'm going to merge all this together, guys. Sorry. Okay, so going back in time here. The gray is still not getting removed from there. Hold on one sec. My goal here, I could just tell you my goal, and then I'll try and do it here. My goal is to have separate color and then separate line art. Okay. I'm going to merge these together. So now I have line art completely separate from the color. Now, what I was saying earlier, that needs to be filled in with white. Okay. There we go. What I was saying earlier was there's a trick that can help us shade. And the trick is to give your brain an idea of where the shading should be, just vaguely, and then it will help you just start to color in the shading. A lot of artists, they can see the shading in their mind. They can see where the highlights and the lowlights should go. If you're like me, it helps to have a little bit of beveling going on. Okay, so we're going to do a lot of tricks like this. Let me rename this color. We call this line art. And then we're going to call this character. This is, I don't know what that is. That's like a backup for the line art. And then there's our backup for the line art. And then we have this background just to see. So far, so good, guys? Can you want me to explain the layers in each one? Yeah, this is my swatches. And that's just to pinpoint, use the eyedropper tool to grab colors, right? They go darker and darker because we go closer and closer to the camera. It gets darker and darker, but also it's good for shadow picking as well. We also have highlights at the top and shadows for the dark green as well. Then also I have my character. This is here mainly for reference. Okay. And then I have my line art. and then I have my color underneath. I filled in the color on top of the line art, and then I separated it afterwards because it was easy to fill it in. You fill in the line art quickly with the paint bucket tool, and then you separate it using the magic wand tool. Make sense? All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to add an effect. We're going to add an inner shadow. And you can see already the value in doing this. If you wanted to make like a real stylized game, and I can guarantee you Team Cherry did not do this. I know they did not. But this helps me. This has always helped me. This is how I do my art all the time. I'm going to do a subtle, sort of soft fade here. Increase the distance. I'm going to make sure global light is turned off. And then go to inner shadow here. And we're going to do it on the other side as well. And then fade. So already, guys, let's reduce the distance for that and reduce the distance for this. Already, you can see why that might be valuable. Do you guys now, are you starting to see, okay, that's where I can draw my shading and paint my shading, right? Okay, so far so good. I don't love that black line there, but we're okay. Okay, so there's two ways to add lowlights and highlights. We can do it with a paintbrush, or we can do it my method of choice. And this sounds so strange, but my method of choice is actually to use the lasso tool here. In this case, the polygon lasso tool. I'm going to rasterize this layer, okay? So now I've got this all rasterized here. Actually, no, we're not. We're going to keep it as an effect. Sorry. Let's start with this piece up here, okay? Now, you might be tempted to zoom super in, like this, to start doing your highlights and lowlights. For me, I like to keep it kind of zoomed out. I don't know why, it just helps. And actually, I do know why. Well, I know that's standard for artists. They like to zoom out and then zoom in and then zoom out and then zoom in. It's good to stay zoomed out because you get context, right? All right, so let's go ahead and do the lowlights. Because I have that subtle bevel there, I now have a pretty good idea of where I'm going to put my lowlights. So I'm just going to use this lasso tool. And one of the reasons I'm using the lasso tool is because I don't have a tablet right now. And frankly, I haven't used a tablet in about 6 or 7 years. And so I'm just going to start drawing where I might think those lowlights will go. And you can kind of already see it, right? You're like, okay, I kind of have an idea here of what Thomas is doing. And this is a real painful way to do it. Like I said, I guarantee you Team Cherry did not do it this way. But this is how I made Pinstripe. And I think Pinstripe's art style, I think it still holds up. I really do. It's something I'm still very proud of. But it's got a sort of angular shading, right? And that's because I used the polygon lasso tool. That moss is coming over the edge here, right? So I'm going to grab this and just do something like that. Just creating sort of a drop shadow effect. If the light is basically coming from the top right, then I can add shading like this. Almost there, almost done with our low lights here. Or you could call them shadows, right? And I'm just going to fill that in with black here. Set it to overlay and fade it out. That make sense, guys? Now, what Hollow Knight does that's different than this, so it's just something to think about. What Hollow Knight does is there is a directional light coming from all sides. And so you kind of have to think, okay, the shadows are on the inner side of the right side and the inner side of the left side. I'm just going to think about it as light's coming from one angle. That's going to be easier for me. Otherwise, I'll go crazy. We can do stuff like this, though. Add a little bit more. So now I'm starting to feel it, right? It's like, okay, I kind of have an idea of where that light is coming from. Oh, that feels better. Okay, okay. So yeah, it's totally fine for your mind's eye to not know exactly what you're doing. You just kind of have to practice. Okay, that feels pretty good. So the truth is, I will be honest with you. The truth is I may be wrong about what I just said. Because I kind of think what Hollow Knight is doing is it's creating shadows around pretty much every edge of the geometry. Like this. And we'll blur it in a sec. And the reason I use the polygon lasso tool is because it gives me control. Whereas when you try with a mouse, especially, right? When you try and do this with a pen tablet, yeah, you can use like the lasso tool, or you can even use a paintbrush. But because I'm using a mouse, I can just start filling in like that. And then we can add some filters to it to make it look like it's brushed. Okay. Looks pretty good. Let's double check something with Hollow Knight. I want to make sure that my highlight assumptions are correct. So the highlights are pretty strong on the surface, right? So that we know we can step on the surface. So my assumptions are generally correct, except there is a highlight on the top. Okay, so we definitely need room on the top for a highlight. Okay, so this right here, that's fine, but I'm gonna move that over. Clean this up here. And we'll do some down here as well. And we'll talk about how to do like the dotted moss, the really pretty speckly moss. There's a trick to it. We'll talk about that in a sec. Just adding some shadows here. This should hopefully really tie it in. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. All righty. So if we zoom out here, looks pretty good there. I think we're going to need to blur it though. I think honestly, this needs to go the other way. So we need to do this right here. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Hey, let's do a highlight layer. So same approach here. And I would argue that the most important pieces are the pieces you're standing on, which is this one of these is going to be a piece you can stand on. So the highlights, they usually shouldn't conflict with that low light there, but I think we'll be okay. Let's try this, and we can obviously clean it up in just a sec. But yeah, you want it to be pretty bright where you can stand. Yeah, that's going to look good. We're going to go to white here and then do an overlay like that. We're going to blur all this so it looks hand painted. And then we're going to remove some of those shadows there. I'm just going to sort of paint them away. Like this one right here. Let's see. That's set to overlay. Drop it down. There we go. Yeah, this one we need to paint that away. That's a little much. There we go. Okay, so just like that. So now it looks like it could be stepped on, right? So far, so good, guys? Make sense? I think the highlight being, yes, I agree that the highlight is mostly applicable to ground surfaces that you can walk on, but I think they're still on every sprite in the game, from what I can see. It's just they're stronger on the ground. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a little bit of a highlight here. Maybe one here as well. They're kind of like little shines, right? And let's see, let's double check something here. If we take a look at some of this artwork here. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. All right, so we're gonna make a little rule here for ourselves. I need to establish this rule for ourselves. We are officially going to have highlights on one side, lowlights on the other. That's kind of the approach I want to take here. Otherwise, I'll go crazy. You got to create the standard for yourself pretty quick, or you're going to start going real crazy. So like this right here, I'm going to make that a highlight. Okay, that feels wrong to me right here. So I'm going to delete that and put it on this side. You got to be really, really careful, or you'll go crazy. Okay, let's add a little bit of a highlight here, guys. Now, the way that I have a friend who's an illustrator, the way he would do this is he would just paint it real quick by hand. He'd get it done so quick. But the principles are still there, right? What we're doing here is about the same thing. You use a lot of gradient there. There we go. The principles still apply. And we'll blur this, make it look hand painted, all that stuff, right? Add a little bit of a highlight here to the moss, but we're also going to be adding the speckles as well. And we'll hopefully speed up this process as we move through the day. Yeah, it's coming along pretty good. Okay, that's set to we need to set it to overlay. So it's got a more yellow, vibrant color, see? Just like that. I'm going to fade out the top there. That's a little strong. Okay, save that. And now, what we can do is blur portions of it, right? So we've got all this shading here. I'm going to merge all this shading together. Set it to overlay, right? Make sure it's overlay. I'm going to duplicate it and then blur it. I'm going to blur it here. So now it's going to have sort of a brushed feel to it, right? And I'm going to blur the other one as well, but just very subtly. Does that make sense, guys? Sweet. Chaotic says, just want to say your videos are very comforting and motivating. That's awesome. Thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying them. Okay, does this make sense so far, guys? Any questions? One final pass I want to do on this is I want to make this dark portion here not look so strong relative to everything else. So I'm going to go in with my paintbrush tool. Okay, just this soft brush tool here. And I'm going to go to one of these dry medium brushes here. Let's see. That's good. I'm going to make it rotate a little bit. So I'm going to go to my brushes. And I'm going to make sure that it has an angle jitter. And I'm going to go full black here. But I'm going to set the opacity to lower. And I want the black part here. We'll probably blur this to not be so aggressive. So I want it to blend a little bit more. And I can use the right and left brackets to go smaller and bigger. And it's great. I'm sure that if like Team Cherry were to watch this, they'd be like, why is he using a mouse? And that's because my art style that I've been using for the last decade is not hand drawn. It's a vector art. It's a very sort of systematic art style. I'm going to set this to overlay here. Hopefully it'll be a little bit stronger. There we go. So my art style is a mouse looks great with. This is like definitely Yeah, there we go. Definitely a different approach and probably not ideal. There we go. Zoom out. Good. Soften it a little bit here. And I think we have a good looking piece there. Does it look like Team Cherry did it? No. But it looks pretty good. I'm going to add a little bit of a shine there. I'm going to blur that. The dark coloring we just did there. Thomas, do you do chess games in your reviews? No. I don't play smart games, to be honest with you. Because I'm not smart enough. I'm really not. Let's do a little bit of a vibrant white here. Make these look shiny. Set it to overlay. We'll do one here as well. Set it to overlay, and then we're going to blur it. And hopefully we just don't make that so vibrant. There we go. Okay. How's that piece look, guys? We good? So far, so good? Clickbait title. Game dev recreates Silksong art with a mouse. Yeah, exactly. Okay, one final thing here, guys. I want to show you how to do that spotted moss, right? This is so important when you're trying to study art. You have to look really specifically at it and go, okay, what was their process? It wasn't random. And if you zoom in here and take a look at this, for example, you zoom in here, you can start to see how they did it. It's going from darkest to lightest. So the process is dot, 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 dot. And as we come forward, they get smaller and smaller and brighter and up towards the edge. Right? So in this case, I'm going to grab my brush tool. I'm going to use... I'm tempted to just use the pencil for you guys. And as we come forward, I'm going to just do this. We'll start with the underside here. Like this. Dot, 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 dot. Let's just fill it in just so you guys can see how this works. I'm actually going to take let's actually, for these, I'm gonna just move forward with over here so you guys can see it better. What just happened there? Hold on. I don't love how dark that is. It's a little too contrasty for me, so I'm gonna blur it. That's so much better. Save that, and let's move on to the next piece. Okay. So how are we feeling so far, guys? All right. So let's move on to this one here. My mouse has been acting up lately, it's just not a good idea for the mouse to be acting up during a live stream, but hey, that's the way it is. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. The way that we're going to do this is we're going to start pretty dang dark. I'm going to even go darker like this, okay? And I'm just going to do dot, dot, dot. Okay, click, 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 click. I'm just going to fill it in, okay? And as we come forward, we're going to go towards a round point. So it's not going like this. We're going in like this, okay? We're not painting a pog or a bottle cap. And yes, I just referenced pogs from 1995. It's not even a button or a pin. It's a sphere. So the way that it's going to work is we're going to go like this. Right? That's how sphere shading is. So let's do it. and then you do small ones. Kind of have to eyeball this. We'll keep coming forward. Start with the big one here. Kind of want it to be more like that. And we'll blur it and add texturing to it. And it's okay to do little tiny ones here. That's what makes it look really interesting. But notice how you never do a dark one on top of a bright one. From what I can gather, that's my approach here. You never do a dark one on top of a light one, but you can do a light one on top of the layer below it. Okay, let's keep going forward. This makes sense, guys? So far, so good. You love pogs. You wonder what happened to your pogs. Yep. Yep, just eyeballing this thing, man. Feeling it out. Keep going. You go pretty bright here to like that. It's a little too bright. Do you see, guys, why I have these gradients down here? So that I can always reference them and grab colors. We may be going a little too detailed here, probably. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. We'll see. Let's go a little bit bright. That's a little... It got kind of bright and aggressive there, didn't it? But let's go with one more here. All right. I have a feeling I'm going to redo this. But we're going to duplicate it and flip it. We're probably going to redo that one. I'm not a huge fan of it. But hopefully you get the idea. No mechanics today. I'm going to blur this. Like that. Okay. I think it's decent. I think it's decent. I think those bushes I'm probably going to end up redoing. Okay. All right, same process, guys, with the stones here. Remember what I did earlier? We can do this pretty quick, right? We can say, okay, the light is coming from the top, so let's go ahead and do our highlights. So I'm just thinking about these as if they were stacked 3D rocks. Light would be kissing these edges that are coming out, right? So I can do this pretty quick here. Just create some interesting kisses of light here. Do some white here. Should we clean that up there? Hold Alt, cut that out. Go back, fill it in. There we go. See? Pretty quick. Set it to overlay. Drop down the opacity. So far, so good. I really like that highlight. I may go over here and do it over here. I like that one better than this one. And then we'll go do the low lights. Okay? Same thing. And this is why Pinstripe took 5 years. It was just this kind of artwork, you know, very angular and handcrafted. It wasn't hand drawn, meaning it wasn't sketched, but it was definitely a process of doing it inside of Photoshop, you know. All right, let's see here. Set that to overlay. Drop down the opacity. We got ourselves... Honestly, I like that one the best. Don't you guys agree? I kind of love that. And then what you could do is go through the middle here. Right? I may redo the other one because I like this look. It's very interesting. It's not Hollow Knight, but hey, it's got its own little flair. I like how crisp it is. It's cool. You can discover your own voice and your own style when you mimic other projects. You'll just find yourself doing other things that just look a little bit different than what the art you're mimicking is. Now, if I take that middle tone there and just do this, now it has sort of a three-dimensional look to it. There we go. Yeah, it's hard to know. I don't know. I don't know which one do I want to use, guys. I mean, I could just blur it and call it a day. I think we want to blur it. That is cool. But I'm going to merge all those together. Set it to overlay and then blur. It definitely looks more like Hollow Knight when it's blurred. Those highlights are bothering me. They're a little too strong. Yeah, those are too strong. That's better. All right, let's add some highlights to the top here so it's clearly walkable. And we may make these just really strong. And I learned about the importance of making the surface look walkable. I learned about that when I was at GDC, when I think I was 18 or 19 years old. I had a booth at GDC with my game Coma. And let's make sure that that's cut like this. And someone came up to play the game and they said, hey, I don't know what I can walk on. I have no idea. So I had to go in and learn my lesson and make the surfaces more walkable. I'm going to set that to overlay here. Drop the opacity down, make save here. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. I think these need a little bit stronger walkability. And by the way, guys, what's going to happen is I'm going to spend a lot of time on these pieces, right? And I'm going to do a lot of, I don't know a better word, but like kit bashing. where I'm going to take these pieces and I'm going to use them all over the place and copy and paste, and create big structures out of these singular pieces. I'm not going to handcraft every single piece, right? I'm just going to take the good looking pieces and use them over and over again. There's nothing wrong with that. Go. Oh, that's great. I think we need a highlight here, and then we're ready to roll to the next one. There we go. I'm going to keep those sharp. I'm not going to blur those. We do need a low light here. This is bugging the crap out of me right here. This really does need a low light because it just feels really out of place. So that right there definitely needs a low light. So I'm going to grab that and just do this. Yep. Yeah, it needed a low light. There we go. By the way, guys, download that game kit. Has anybody tried downloading the game kit in the link in the description? Let me know if you guys have and see if it works properly, because it's a brand new game kit. And I made that for you guys last week. Hey, Jason, how you doing, buddy? Dude, this morning when you came by, this is what I was thinking about. I was stressed about this because I was thinking, I'm about to make a fool of myself trying to do Hollow Knight. But it's actually turning out okay. I think it's doing pretty good. Why can't I mask you out, you mother effer? Hold on. There we go. So we're going to use this fade here, and I'm just going to fade out that right there. That was bothering me. And yeah, okay. Looks good so far. Pixel art. I can do pixel art. It's not my favorite, but I can do it. Okay. Link works. Oh man, I want to go I want to go for a walk. Oh, it is pretty out. Okay, I'm going to do a little cheat here. This is so interesting. Watch this, guys. I'm going to do an inner shadow on the top of all of the art. And it's going to be a very vibrant overlay. And I'm going to set the distance and the size to be pretty small here. Look at that. And then soften it. Just so it feels a little bit more 3D. I think we want to be careful, though. Yeah, we're going to be careful. And I'm going to try an inner shadow below. You got to be so careful, guys. You think you need something and then you don't. That's why it helps to zoom out. I'm going to drop the opacity. I think we're good there. Okay. All those pieces look pretty dang good. And let me, guys, I just want to show you really quick what I mean by, like, again, I can't think of a better word, by kit bashing. So what you can do is you can take this, and I guarantee you Team Cherry did not do this. They're more principled than I am. But I could take this and I could go, okay, I need a big chunky piece. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do another big one here. But I'm going to fade out the edge. So I can put that there, and I can rotate it here. Right? I could sort of fit them into place so they look like they're seamless. And then I can take this one. You just want to be careful with scale. That's why line art is such a pain in the butt. When you do line art as opposed to like vector art, line art, when you have actual lines, gets super duper fussy when you start scaling things up, right? So if I take, I'm trying to merge all this together. There we go. So these are, I love these pieces. So this right here, I can use this all over the place. But again, you want to be careful scaling stuff up because then your line art starts to change, right? But I could take that and just start adding little rock pieces all over. But you got to be really careful. Otherwise, it can look really cheap really fast. So that's what I mean by kit bashing. And you can imagine what we could do with all these different pieces, right? But let's keep going. Let's keep going. Hopefully I didn't ruin anything here. Okay, I can still edit those. That's good. These look fine. I really don't love them. Let me think here. Okay. Way we're going to approach these is the left side is going to be dark, and then it's going to go to the right as if the light is wrapping around. So these right here, we're going to do the same approach here. Grab the dark color here. Use a pencil tool, right? And just start filling in like this. Dot, 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 dot. Right? We're going to get rid of those lines there. Keep going up. And don't be afraid to copy and paste stuff. I'm going to copy and paste this one, right? And just put it over here on this side. So all this texturing here, I'm just going to move over. And again, I'm less principled than Team Cherry, obviously. But let's clean that up. That looks ugly right there. There we go. And also, I'm doing this live. I'm not saying that's why it might not look perfect, but I am saying why I'm being less principled. Because I don't want to waste y'all's time. Dot, 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 bang, 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 bang. It really does help to blur your eyes, guys. When you're drawing, just blur those eyes. It really does help. It also helps to put little pieces on the outside there. See, suddenly it starts looking more like a like a twinkly moss is the best way I can describe it. Go around, create some highlights there. No, it doesn't need to be perfect. Perfection occurs here. That's where perfection occurs. Ironically, the closer you zoom in, the worse your art's going to look. Meaning, if I was like right here and I was drawing at this contextual level, I have no idea if it looks good because I'm zoomed in. So you really, it's like seeing the forest for the trees. You really have to zoom out to know exactly what you're doing. I'm going to blur this in just a minute. That looks bad right there. And then don't be afraid to put little pieces here. That's what makes it look interesting. Gotta be real careful though. It can look bad fast. Okay, let's keep going. This will be my last layer here of this bright coloring. And I guarantee you guys this is going to look very different than Hollow Knight once I get it all into the scene. And again, it's not going to look as good, not even close. But we're going to try. Not bad. Yeah, we're using a mouse. That's why my approach is a little bit more mechanical than Team Cherries might be. Okay, let's go ahead and do a little trick here. Gonna do a Gaussian blur like this. Copy that, and then I'm gonna put it over top of it, and then fade it a little bit like that. Has kind of a bloomy look now. If I want to, I can also do something which is really interesting. These are just some tricks you can do to make it look more hand painted. I can go to Stylize, go to Oil Paint, make it look oil painty, right? See that? And then I can go to Blur, just a subtle blur here, and then drop that opacity down. So now it's got this sort of warped, modeled look, which I'm fine with, I guess. I'd rather it just be like this. I'm just going to fill in some of those gaps there. That doesn't make sense there. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I'm going to grab this, merge all those together, and put it over here. And scale it up. And I'm not afraid to say that I think that's done. Maybe scale it up a little bit more. There we go, save that. Now, a little trick that I'm okay with doing is taking this texture work here and bringing it over here. I'm not too ashamed of that. And we could just do this. I think this is A-okay to do for a 2 or 3 hour live stream with the goal of teaching. I think that's okay. What do you guys think? Are we breaking any rules here? Probably, but I don't care. We live in an age where, what is it? The final result is really what matters. And I say that because of AI. That's what seems to be the case these days. But yeah, that looks good actually. I'm gonna save that. And this little piece of broccoli here is actually going to be used to as this giant little background piece. We can just sort of slap all over the scene and rotate at different angles and put different lighting contexts. Notice how all of these pieces are like stamps. They're like almost stickers, and you're just going to stick them all over the scene. Okay. And we'll have to do more of this. Let's see here. We'll have to do some detailing right here, I think. But I think overall this is going to look all right. You don't want to scale it too much. And then again, we want to fade out the edges here. There we go. Yeah, we don't want to scale too much because then it'll start looking really inconsistent. So like that there, instead of scaling that back, I'm just going to do this. There we go. Do stuff like this. And I'm going to merge all this together so I'm not wasting a ton of RAM or whatever. Guys, is this helpful at all? Are we learning anything today? I was worried about this one. But in all seriousness, are you learning anything? I'm going to get rid of that there. It's too dark right there. You want to be careful not to get too dark right there because yeah, then it stops feeling 3D. No, I think in game I think what we're going to do is we're going to go through a saturation process where we rethink the saturation in particular of the green. And by the way, it's not saturation that's necessarily the problem here. I think it's more the contrast. I think there might be a little too much contrast. Okay. Okay. That looks good. So you guys see how I'm using all of this texture work as kind of like stamps almost. And I'm just sort of duplicating and just dragging. I mean, I could honestly just do this. I'm not fully opposed to this. It gets a little weird looking once we get to about right here. Yeah, gotta be careful. Okay. Now, this piece here, I like this one. So I'm going to grab that one, duplicate it, and move it up here. So, yep, see? So we could just take the work that we've already done and reuse it. I'm okay with that. Just paint it out. There we go. There's certain parts of it that are too dark right there. What I'm going to do is grab this piece here and duplicate it up on top at the very top here. So it's bright right there. And then fade it out. There we go. All right. I don't love this. I think I need to set those to overlay. Yeah, all those need to be, no, we don't. Just gonna fade this out here. That right there is bothering me, that piece right there. Okay. All right. Now, what else can we do here? I think we just need to fill in some texture there as well. Right there. Let's think here. Here I go getting lazy. Put some there as well. And I may do a final dot pass. Yeah. And then we'll fade out or paint out this here, right there. Yeah. And then duplicate again. Yeah, I'll probably do a final dot pass where I just go in and do little vibrant dots. Okay, let's take all this and merge it together and then paint out to be a little bit more crisp in certain areas. Let's see, like right there, that's weird. Yeah. Want it to be nice and crisp. There's a few other places like right there. Hang on. There it is. Yeah, that one. That's weird. That's weird. That's a little weird there. Also, that's just dark for no reason right here. So that doesn't make any sense. There we go. And this is too dark over here, so I'm going to scale this up. There we go. All right. I don't love this right here. That's really bothering me. That feels so much better. Yeah. What we're going to do is we're going to merge all this together. All of the texture work we're going to merge together into one final layer here. Boom, there it is. And drop down the opacity. And then we'll do a final dot layer. That feels much better. It was way too contrasty. Okay. We'll do a final shading pass here in a minute. But let's go ahead and get knockout. Yes, we need to do a shading pass on the stone here. So again, really quick here. What was the rule? The rule was shadows on the bottom or near the bottom. And You just want it to feel bulbous. Like everything is protruding. Right? This sort of shading technique I kind of mastered when I used to do Etsy art. So I used to do Star Wars portraits. I would make families look like they were Star Wars characters. And I did that on Etsy when I had a desk job just to make some extra money. And I remember one day I came up with the idea to do it, and I didn't really know how to do it. But I put it on Etsy, and I reached out to a blog and said, hey, I'm doing these posts or these Star Wars portraits. And I would use this sort of shading technique on the portraits. And the blog wrote about it, and then I got like $4,000 that day from a sale. That was the first entrepreneurship thing I ever did, where I was like, oh, all I got to do is reach out to a blog? Oh, that looks so much better. This is kind of weird right here. Yep, that's why you want to zoom out. Looks pretty good. We'll do a highlight there. You know what's funny is if you guys ever want to make a game because you're inspired by another game, don't make your game. And I was talking about this. I was talking about this earlier, but remake a scene from that game that you're inspired by. And then two things are going to happen. Number one, you're going to learn how to do that scene or that game's style. But number two, you're probably going to not make that game because you'll get it out of your system. I don't like being inspired by other games and having that be the reason why I make a game. Because oftentimes it's just you're curious if you can do it. You should really be making a game that you want to make, right? A concept that's really interesting to you, not just because you're inspired by something. This needs some shading. It really does. It needs like I'm just going to create sort of an interesting shading to make things feel a little bit more bulbous. Maybe go down like this. And I'm definitely breaking some Hollow Knight rules here because they don't do this. Not at all. But hey, we're just going to go with our own sort of style here at this point because I'm having fun. And this should make sense here in a minute, guys. When you start to see it, it'll go, oh, that's why he's doing that. Trying to make things pop. So it doesn't look like a stamp, but rather it looks like an actual three-dimensional object. Let's fill that one in here with black. Why is that doing that? Hold on. There we go. Set it to overlay, drop it down. And then once you have your shading, right, then you can go in and fade out the stuff that doesn't make sense. Like that doesn't make sense. There we go. Honestly, that doesn't make sense. This does. Ever so slightly. That makes sense. 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 Yep. Maybe fade in a little bit more here. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. We could probably go ahead and do a highlight pass, but let's do a little bit of shadows here. And see, now I'm sort of in flow state, guys, where it's starting to make sense to me. And that is a process to get there. It takes a while to get to that point where it starts to all click. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I do feel that flow state where it just starts to click. And the good news is we don't have to shade any of any of the animation, any of the characters. There's none of this shading. Who knows why? There's two reasons why we don't shade the character. There's two reasons why we don't shade the character. Anyone know? It's a cost savings. So basically, we don't. Disney even does this. They don't really shade their characters. They shade the world, but they don't shade their characters. But you also don't want to animate, or you don't. You also want your characters to stand out, right? So you're kind of killing two birds with one stone. And also, when you animate like hand-drawn shading, it's like really ugly because it's really hard to match the shading perfectly. So all of that is why. Yeah, this is gonna feel much more plastic, I think, than Hollow Knight, which I'm actually okay with. I'm fine with that. Just getting all of my shading in here, guys. Okay. We could probably do a little bit of a shadow here. Right? One here as well. Yeah, Mr. Broccoli over here is looking all right. I don't love this. This was bothering me for some reason. This piece right here. But we're not going to see the bottom there. We're just going to see those side pieces. Like the stonework and stuff. All right. That bothers me right here. This little piece right here. So let me... We're just going to do a new layer here and just... That looks so much better, thank God. There we go. I guess we could do some highlights. But I don't know if we want to. Let's just do a few. Just a little bit. Yeah, I think you guys will be glad we went with this highlight here because... And we'll blur it so it doesn't look so aggressive. But yeah, these highlights are going to help a lot, actually. So you notice that I like to just do like a brief selection of kind of where I want the highlight. And then I'll go in and mask out what I don't need. And then sort of blur everything. So it's kind of a way to like mimic hand painting without actually needing to get I mean, it's definitely a slow process, but you don't have to get like a Wacom tablet or anything. Make that bright there. Maybe one here as well. Okay. Let's just throw in one here as well. And maybe one here. You guys ready? Sometimes this looks really cool when you do it really quick. So we'll do an overlay. And then let's just go ahead and blur it because I know we're gonna. And then I'll fade it out. Just like so. It's definitely too vibrant, so we'll be removing it. The vibrancy. That's the idea. That is ridiculous right there. That looks terrible. Okay, got it. Blur your eyes, guys. If you blur your eyes, you can see where the mistakes are. There it is. Yep. Just blur your eyes and the mistakes will manifest. Okay, it's not perfect, but it's fine. Okay, drop down the opacity. All right, we got ourselves a weird looking rock piece. That still is bothering me right there. And what I'm going to do is take that line art. I'm going to fade it out like that. And then we're going to fill in this by merging all of this together. Crackerjacks. Let's think here. We're going to have to do this a little bit differently here. Have to grab this, potentially paint it in like that. Okay, we'll do a texture pass as well so that some of those mistakes are removed. Don't love this, and I'm trying to figure out that is bothering me. Yep, okay. That goes away. Okay, there we go. All right, how do you blur your eyes? Just like that, right? Or take off your glasses. It helps a lot. Or zoom out, right? Okay. So far, so good. I'm going to clean that piece right there makes it look amateurish. And I'm gonna remove that in the final when we rasterize everything. I'm gonna remove that. Let me show you a trick really quick over here with these pieces of leaves. All I'm gonna do with these is I'm gonna grab this here and just do this. Wait, what? Oh, Thomas. We need to grab this here and just fade out that so it looks like it's sort of like a paint stroke. Yeah, there we go. Same with this one here. And then I'm going to fill in here that green. Here we go. Okay, with these, I don't really go too crazy with these. We could do a little trick here. I could select this little shiny piece here, or like the part where a shine would be. I could fill in a gradient here. I mean, I'm just going to do it with everything just because I know kind of what I want. Make this look a little bit more flat here. Yeah, that's going to look cool. And then one here as well. And then I could do one here. And what is this going to be, guys? This is going to be my highlights. or at least the shine lights. The shine lights. Do that and then fade out like this. Isn't that cool? And then set it to overlay. And then I'm going to blur it. We'll do a pretty aggressive blur here. And we could probably duplicate it, right? And I can even fade out just certain parts of it like this. So it's like only part of it's shiny. There we go. All right, we got some cool shiny leaves. Thomas, have you met Lucas Pope? No. Guys, I'm in talks with why did I forget your name? Concerned Ape. And I'm just every time I talk to him, I'm like, let's go. Come on the podcast. And he's like, okay, maybe. And then it just goes away. It dwindles off. Okay, let's do a little bit of a low light really quick here. If like low hanging fruit is stuff like this. You can get so much more bang for your buck by just adding a little shadow. And by the way, there's going to be a shadow there as well. Watch. Lots of bang for our buck here. To just add a little bit of a low light here. I don't know why that's not showing up. Hang tight. Let's go up to this layer here. There we go. Same true over here, right? Now, I've reached out to Lucas Pope. I've tried to get him on. But, yeah. And we'll do one here as well. And we'll blur all that. Make it a little less intense. This one will blur as well. Okay. We're going to merge all this together. And we're going to clean up some areas that to me are just obvious problems. If we have time, we're going to do animation. If we have time. I have no idea right now. I mean, this might just take forever. Okay, we can merge all this together. You guys can see, by the way, this is how it looks without the lines. And that might be like how I do some of my old games. No line art, you know. Okay, so stuff that's bothering me is stuff like this. This bothers me for some reason, so I'm going to remove that. Oh, so it looks so much better already. Thank you, Lord. We're just going to simplify some of this so it's not so aggressive. Even that bothers me too. There we go. And then I'm going to go in and add some highlight dots. This bothers me. There's a weird shape going on there. So we're going to sharpen that up right there. That bothers me too. There we go. That's a little too aggressive right there. This bothers me. You just see it when you zoom out. You can just see it. That bothers me. There we go. That bothers me. I'm just using the eyedropper tool and grabbing various colors. This needs to probably be shaded dark. So this is where it's sort of a final little shading pass. That kind of ruined that. Hold on. That's good. Okay, so that's good for now. That doesn't look good. Hold on. There we go. That's fine. Yeah, the stones do look the best. Let's do this. We're going to grab this right here. My theory is that if we were to put this like right here and then fade it out and give it a drop shadow, we could sort of mimic artistry. So here's what I mean. What I mean is we're going to use some cheat codes here to hide some of Thomas's laziness. There we go. Convert all that to a smart object. And I can basically make this feel much more premium by doing this. I'm having a blast, by the way, guys. Thanks for joining me. Be sure to download that game kit, guys. There's a game kit totally free in the description. And we're going to use that tomorrow when we put all this art into the game. When deciding where to put these kind of pieces, it really does help to zoom out. So if I do this, it's so much more helpful. You can kind of see where it needs to go. Do you see why this is helpful, guys? Just to have these little pieces. So now we're going to really start doing that kit bashing process where we can start taking what we've already made and filling in gaps. Let's see. That looks good. And you can just move things around and it'll start to click. You'll go, okay, yep, that makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. We could probably make this make more sense by adding some depth to it. So for example, I think we could probably do something like this. Oh, we're so close. Oh man, I was so close. And yeah, so what I'm trying to say is like it looks like we haven't accomplished much here. But I can make that at least low opacity like that. There we go. But there's something wrong. Hang on, I got to think this through. If I flip this horizontally here, I can actually justify that little edge right there that's making me really annoyed. Yeah, that looks better. Okay, what was I saying? Oh yeah, it looks like we haven't accomplished much, does it? But in a way, what we have here are brushes. And we can create all sorts of chunky pieces with these brushes. That doesn't look good. I could take this here and maybe even do this. Transform, flip horizontal. Maybe find just a few pieces here that we could do it too. So right now we're kind of beginning that process of kit bashing. And I know that's the wrong word, but it helps. me think about this. It's just basically you taking images and smashing them together. And it's a cheap and effective way to make things look a little bit more interesting. I'm going to make sure that that's all applied on top of each layer so we're not getting extra outside of the line art. Okay, that feels a little odd. It was looking good and now it's not. There we go. That's kind of weird. You kind of want it to look like the lines are sort of bleeding out from the other lines. There we go. Okay. I don't love that. We're going to figure that out in a minute. Alrighty. Okay. That right there. All right. I want to go ahead and do something interesting here. I want to create effectively a brush. Now we're not actually going to make a brush, but it's going to be these dots here. And we're going to use these all over the place. I'm just going to make one smart object out of it, and we're going to use a ton of them. There's part of me that's interested in seeing what happens if we add a drop shadow to them. I don't know why. But we'll see. Okay, that is the idea. But I think it might be too much. I'm gonna add a drop shadow and see what happens. I've always been interested in adding drop shadows to highlights. I don't know. Let's set it to overlay and see what happens. Kind of like it. Let's scale it up. Rotate this one. I'll add some to here. Do you guys see why I'm sort of saving time here by just duplicating and duplicating and duplicating? Do some over here as well. This has been a really fun exercise. I've learned a lot. And it's this kind of stuff where you really start to learn new tricks that you wouldn't have otherwise learned. You know? Just learned a ton of tricks. Stuff that I wouldn't have thought about working on other projects. All right, guys, are we still live? Sometimes my streams will cut off. Are we still live? Ba-da-da-da-da. Maybe we are, maybe we aren't. We are. I think we are. For some reason my chat isn't showing up in. There we go. Yes, I have done my taxes, thank God. Those are donezo. This year I got them done early. Okay, let's put this nice rounded piece here. Interesting how this works, guys, right? You just sort of copy and paste and let everything sort of work itself out. You just feel it out. Right there, that's really ugly. We're going to have to solve that in a minute here. And I'm not looking forward to it because I don't really know what the solution is. Let's put that one down here. This is cool looking. I like it. I don't mind it. And I was expecting to mind it, if I'm being honest with you. Okay. Speckled. Hanging moss here. Burp, 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 burp. What about this is bothering me? I think that's the ultimate question. I'm not sure. I think I'm about ready to merge everything together, though. Although, I do have a trick up my sleeve I want to do, which is take our line art and blur it like that and use it as places we could put shadows. So, for example, I could take that. Okay, I'm going to blur this here, or fade that out and mask it out. And I can take that and potentially do shadows here. That might be what I need to do, but I'm not sure. Let's just play with this here and see what we need to do. I think this part just needs more shadows. I know it looks bad. Hang on. Okay, let's see if this works. It probably won't, but we're just playing here. We'll see what happens. That feels pretty good. Okay. The stones here, we don't need those to be dark. I'm probably going to delete this whole, what I'm doing here, guys. But I just want to feel it out and see what happens. maybe. Maybe, guys, maybe. Let's see. I definitely don't like it on anything else except for this piece over here, because I feel like we needed some shading there. I mean, bare minimum, I think we just need to go in and add some shading. Okay, this, we don't want that to be disappearing. We want to see that nice and vibrant. Okay, we're almost there, almost there. Okay, that feels a little bit better. Probably just going to reduce the opacity of that, though. It was a trick that we thought would work. I think it's okay. Let's think, ladies and gents. I think what we're going to do here is we're going to keep all of this as a backup in case we need it. And then we're going to start sort of putting it into a scene in Photoshop just to make sure all of it works. It's hard to know if it works right now because we've just done the pieces. And so we're going to bring it into a Photoshop scene and try and see how it all works together and sort of put together something special. I'm going to make sure all of this is backed up, though. So I'm going to have that, this, and this all as a backup. Right? Duplicate all that, put it into its own little backup layer or backup group. Call this backup. Got everything in there I need, I believe. Let's double check. So I've got some line art. Good. All right, that's all backed up. Okay. All right, I think I'm ready to merge all this together. Although I will say one little trick here that I want to do. One little trick I want to do here is take some of that line art and add some color to it. Okay, so for example, the green here. I could do this, right? And now it's not so aggressive. My theory is that this is like kind of crucial. I'll just make sure it's a little bit more faint. And by the way, this is, I believe, true of Hollow Knight Silk Song. Yeah, I'm looking at it. And the only hard black is on the stone. A lot of the other, I think a lot of the other stuff here, look how much better this looks just by doing that. I'm just adding that green. Right? That looks so much better. What a fun little revelation. I'm glad we thought about that. And also Bloom will do this. When we throw in some Bloom in Unity, it'll do that for us. I think even the gray here, we can do that. And if it's too much, you know, you can just fade it out. or mask it out a little bit so it's not so aggressive. There we go. So it's still dark, but it's not black. Okay. All right. Let me think here really quick of other stuff we need to do. That's a little bit harsh right there, or a little bit not contrasty enough. There we go. Let's think here, guys. What else do we need to do? I'm thinking about stuff. I'm thinking about, okay, what could I do here? What's some low-hanging fruit to really make things pop? Well, I kind of feel like these bushes here have some strange shading going on at the bottom. And so I'm going to do that. That feels a little bit more 3D, honestly. There we go. That looks so much better. Maybe fade out the bottom of the rocks a little bit. Do this. Those will be coming from the top. Just hitting it with, I guess you would call this like blending, I guess. Kind of like if you were doing your makeup, right? Sort of blending it in so it's not so harsh in certain places, so it has a nice flow to it. But when you do that, you just got to be careful that you're not, that the line work isn't lighter than the coloring, right, of the inside. So like right there. Yeah, you just got to be real careful. It's a definitely subtle thing. Okay, what do we got? What are we thinking about? Sorry, I'm just eyeballing it. I think we're ready to kind of kit bash it. No, we need highlights on those those leaves. I just realized. And I think you guys are going to be surprised by what we can achieve with just a few assets. And I did realize we're missing one asset, which is our, what was it? Yeah, okay. Leaves. Yeah, we're missing leaves. That looks good, actually. Yeah, we're missing leaves here, so let me go ahead and drag that in. Um, I'm just thinking, guys. Give me a sec. Okay, yeah. So let's grab some leaves. This is kind of an afterthought, but we need to grab that. I'm just going to create one because we don't have time to do all of them. Color overlay, black. We can do it pretty quick. We'll just fill it in. I mean, honestly, we probably want them to go a little bit longer. So like down to here. Okay. And then fill in the bottom, obviously, so that we can color it in. This one doesn't have to take long. I could just grab that color there, fill it in. Grab the color. Same method, guys. Same exact method that we were doing earlier. Right? And then just sort of do some highlights really quick. Do a low light on this side. Every great artist, I think, and I'm not saying I'm a great artist, I'm saying that my theory is that every great artist becomes, it's just a second nature, and then they begin to speak that language. It's like speaking, and it just flows out. Just because you're practicing so much that it's just natural, second nature, you know. And by the way, all of these are going to change colors and change blurriness and all that inside of the game kit that I have, and you can download that game kit below. As they get closer to the camera, you can make them darker. As they get further away, they'll blend in with the fog in the background, right? So that's the idea, is that you have just a few assets. That was quick, thank God. I was worried about that, but we're good here. That's all we really needed. I guess that this right here needs to be like a shaded kind of. Blur. Whoops. Blur that. And then if it doesn't look good, right? If you're like, why is that not looking good? It's because you need to cut off so it's nice and crisp here. So it feels more 3D. There we go. Yay! We got ourselves a, I'm going to cut some of that out. It's a little too thick down there. And then obviously you want to grab this here and just make it so it's not that hard black. There we go. And merge all that together, and we've got ourselves a, that's a little too much actually. There we go. We've got ourselves a leaf that we can use over and over and over again, right? Okay, what do we got? What do we got? Well, I think we're ready. Oh, that's too light. There we go. All right. Are we ready to go, guys? Are we ready to move forward? Yeah, I think we are. All right, so the steps moving forward are, this is where it gets kind of fun. I'm going to merge all this together into one little object. Isn't that crazy? So now it's just all one thing. And I'm going to clean up a few things like this right here. Yeah, if I was to ship this, obviously I would clean this up significantly. But right now, I'm fine with just doing that. What we could do is we could put it on top of itself. I could do a big blur like this. And then I could maybe do an oil paint. I'm just trying out different filters here. I could try an oil paint filter here. Blur it again. I could do maybe a smart blur. Would that do anything? Probably not. Drop down the opacity here. kind of bloomy looking. Copy that, go back in time. Actually want to see how it looks with the line art on top of it. Just trying out a few techniques here to see what happens. Kind of like it blurry, but only certain parts are blurry. So for example, like the bottom portions, that might be interesting. Right? That might be cool. Just little parts of it that are blurry. So it almost has like a magical glow to it. Yeah, I think that helps it. Subtle things, guys. There are a few things that need a little bit of a dimension to it. I'm going to use the lasso tool for this. And this is going to be interesting. I think this will really help us. Some stuff, it's just not, there's just not enough dimension. So like, for example, right here. Maybe this as well. You could just feel it in your brain. It's just like, there's just not enough dimension. There we go. That's better. Cut some out here. Yeah. Okay, not enough dimension. Now we're looking pretty good here. There we go. I think I need to blur that. We're getting there. You can just feel it. Yeah, like right here, you could just feel that there needs to be something there. Like that. Yeah. Yeah, so this is going to be an important phase right here. We're going in and adding a third dimension to things just to make it feel a little bit stronger with some dimensionality. Yep. Okay, same here. It also adds some sharpness to it where it really counts. Yeah, that's kind of cool. So notice how I'm using the lasso tool now. And again, we're gonna go in and add a bunch of different assets using these pieces to kind of kit bash, if that makes sense. It's not really kit bashing, but that's kind of the idea. Adding some dimensionality here. Yeah, this is gonna make it feel 3D. And not just like line art, because right now it kind of feels like line art and it's only line art and we're just coloring it in, but this is going to make it feel like those lines are actually part of the shadows. Yeah. So let me show you before and after. I don't love how there's a line right there, but yeah, so this is, I know I'm not communicating very well right now. I'm just trying to think how I want to do this. Yeah. So that's before, that's after. See? It's worth it. Save. Yeah, it just adds a level of crispness to things that I really like. Almost feels like watercolor when you do it like that. Do normal maps always make games look better? No. No, definitely not. There's not a single type of material preset nor any art style in general that I would ever say always makes something look better. Some games look great without normal maps, you know? I am not bad with a mouse. Okay. Oops, wrong one. Oh, yes, that looks so good right there. Certain things where it's like, you're so glad you did it. Yay! Okay, that's great. Add a little bit more dimensionality to this guy, right? See? Isn't that cool? You do a little bit of a sort of groove here as well. Nope. You'll feel it. You'll know it when you see it. Almost. There it is. You'll know it when you see it. And why not just do this, guys? Let's think here. Yeah. Adding dimensionality. This final dimension pass is going to be so valuable. I'm glad we're doing it. It makes everything look much more handmade for some reason. I think it's because it's much more, it's not as angular. Okay. But that's why we stay zoomed out, because you can start to see like problems with it. You're like, okay, that's a problem right there. You'll know it when you see it. Okay. You know, right there we need a little bit of this. There we go. Using a mouse. That feels weird right there. Okay. Yeah, okay, that's it. That's it. I've kind of figured this out. Because they're cylindrical, I want them to have, oh man, that looks so good. Okay, that makes sense. They need a sharper shadow on the sides there. Cool. Those look good. Those look good, 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 good. This one we can do it on the left side. There we go. This one has risk of becoming way more complicated than it should, but we're going to try this and see what happens. We're just going to play with this one and see what happens. It could be that all it needed was some shading. Yeah, that looks great. Guys, that's what it needed. Okay. Yay, that's such a relief. Okay. All right, let's not be lazy. We're going to need to do it for a lot of this stuff here. Cool. We're getting there. Probably need to fade that one out. Yeah, it feels much more illustrated, you know, with that squiggly selection occurring. Yeah. Yeah, this is what we needed. I'm really glad we tried this. We'll fade out some of those edges because I understand that that looks a little weird right here. There as well. Yeah. No, but that's good. Dude, I think we can go in and add some highlights. If we're gonna do that with the low lights, might as well add some highlights here. So here's what I mean. Stuff like this. Just little highlights. All you do is just a white bang and then do overlay. Drop it down. Fade it out. Anytime your highlights are conflicting with your shadows, fade it out. Okay. All right. That looks pretty good. Overlay. And then we'll just fade. And be very strategic about where these go. There we go. Yeah, those blades of grass or whatever those are really cool looking. I kind of want to be careful with these highlights over here. Things are getting a little too contrasty for my taste. So I want to be careful with this guy's really scaring me. I'm going to do something here. I gotta think. I gotta think here. I'm gonna merge all these together. I'm gonna do a filter. Okay, that's what I wanted. I'm gonna do a smart blur. There's no right or wrong here. I just want it to feel a little more painterly. And drop down the opacity. Yeah. And then what I'm going to do is to reduce some of the contrast for the shading of the dark side here. Just going to do a little subtle. There we go. It's just too contrasty right there. It's bothering me. Down here, we're not going to see much of these guys. So I'm just going to sort of make them less intense. I may even just go darker. Just like sort of fade it out a little bit down there. Okay, good. That's better. Those tips need to be brighter. Okay. Yes, okay, I'm glad we did that. Probably need to just go darker at the bottom down there. I don't love this piece over here. I just don't. Okay, that does help, actually. Okay. Now, I hate this. What's happening to that line art is really bothering me. There we go. Okay. All right. There's our line art. Here is our shaded coloring. And what we can do here to get rid of that sort of tiny little line there is just add a stroke. One little stroke here. Set it to outside. It's going to need to be center. There we go. But we don't want it to be black, remember? That might be a little too thick, too. So we need to think this through. 2, 1. That might be fine. That looks good. I'm going to rasterize this, copy, bring it below. Yeah. Yep. We're going to bring it below this layer here. This is just me fixing a mistake I made. Let's see. Give me a sec. There it is. Huh. Yeah, that green is a little strange, isn't it? And what we might need to do is paste it on top. There we go. take the lines below it. Yep, and then blur them. And then duplicate them significantly. Just so the color is over. There we go. Yay, it's fixed. That's cool looking. I love that. That looks a little thick and crunchy to me. I don't know if I hate it though. So let's see here. What we could do, merge those together. And where it's feeling really thick and crunchy, like right there, I can fade it out. So it's not so aggressive. Right there is about the only place that really bothers me. Yeah, there we go. Good. So now we fix those lines. Okay. What else, Thomas? Are you guys ready to kit bash? Oh yeah. And see, one of the ways we're gonna do this, I'm gonna back all this up. We're gonna make sure that this is in its own group. I'm gonna call this backup 2. I just like to have all my backups because I'm gonna be merging something here in a minute. I do wonder what would happen if we did an inner shadow. I told you. You gotta be so careful though, because this stuff can get way too contrasty. You have to be so careful. It just looks worse. No, that might look better. Yeah, that does look better. Wouldn't you say, guys? I feel like that looks better. I feel like that looks better. Yeah, so let's do this really quick. Let's grab I'm going to merge all this together here. I'm going to grab this right there. Going to go select, modify, feather, set it to 10, copy it, and now I can paste it, put it over here, and put it onto this right here. Just so that's a little bit more sparkly over here. Because it wasn't matching the other stuff. There we go. Yeah. Yay, it matches now. All right. So here's what I mean by bashing it together. I'm gonna merge all of this stuff together now that we've got a nice backup if we need it. So if I copy this, I don't need the color palette anymore. I'm fine with you being down here. What I can do is I can start copying and pasting, cutting and pasting all of these outside of their layer. Right? And I'm going to use something that I don't think Team Cherry uses, which is drop shadows. I don't think they use drop shadows, but we're going to use drop shadows. We're going to make sure things have a drop shadow on them that I know are things that are going to sort of be stacked on top of each other. So for example, these can have a drop shadow on them. Because I know they're going to stack on top of other ones. There we go. All right. So there's our bushes. Convert it to smart object. It's a smart object. This is a smart object. This is a smart object. Smart object. Yeah, all the layers we're going to convert to smart objects now that we know that we're ready to begin placing them throughout the scene. Okay, so if we had our character here, I'm just going to play around for a little bit here. See if these assets are working for me. If I had this right here, and it would be in front of our character, right? Then I could do this. I could flip it vertically as well. See, that's where you start getting into problems because it's the shading's below it. So I'm not going to do that. We can do this. We can do this. I'm just playing around here. So anytime it's feeling a bit loopy or tiled, and then you can also create other pieces. And we're going to do this in Photoshop, not Unity, right? You might be thinking, well, okay, Thomas, do this in Unity, not Photoshop. But I'm actually going to create a bunch of different chunks and pieces that we can use. Yeah. Okay, so I don't want to scale them up too much if they're going to be on the same layer. Like I said earlier, in this series, we're only going to make a few pieces because we really don't have time to make a ton of pieces. I mean, the goal is to learn here, not make all the perfect pieces. We could do one down here. We'll make kind of a cool looking platform. Just want to see how these pieces look together. So some of them don't look bad flipped upside down. Like that right there. Yeah. This can go behind. And you can imagine how you could use this, right? Create all kinds of cool pieces with it. Background elements are going to go, there's going to be an overlay over top of them. And I'm figuring this out as I go here, guys. Yeah, these kind of chunky, big, fat pieces are really useful. Just going to play around until we find what works for us. I'm trying to see what kind of pieces are useful. Give me a sec, guys. And also, this is a quick and dirty way of seeing how it would work in Unity, right? Okay. And then you have your foreground pieces that get blurred. So like this would be black. And then it would be blurred. Okay, and then behind the character, you have a overlay like this. I believe it's saturated. Yeah, you just want it to pop. But also separate the background. That we're gonna, yeah, then we can also do this, remember, in Hollow Knight. And this is me putting together a quick and dirty scene of how I think this will look in Unity. Okay. Oh, we're getting there. This is tough. This part is tough for sure. This is where it gets tricky. And then the bushes in the foreground, right? These are your saviors because they can cover things. And then just blur a little bit here. Darken a little bit here. This will all be done in Unity with our sprites, but this is to help us see how it's going to look. Yeah, I'm tempted to put drop shadows on all of those bushes, but I could be wrong. I'm okay saving this. It's getting tense, guys. This is where the magic is supposed to happen. Okay. And obviously there will be a vignette as well. Okay. Lock that. So this kind of thing here. Yeah, these need to be locked as well. These are going behind the player. We'll make them smaller, right? Yes. It's much better. These can go over here. %of it is going to be the lighting and the depth of field and the composition. These are going to be smaller. And actually, I believe those are in front of the player. Yeah. We need composition here. And then obviously, guys, there's going to be a ton of foreground elements as well. Those look a little too saturated, don't they? Put some of the broccoli. I mean, honestly, it doesn't need to be that wide. I'm just going to put that here for now. These go behind the broccoli. Sorry, I'm just thinking here, guys. That's why I'm being so quiet. Those need to go behind each other. There we go. Don't underestimate the value of these foreground bushes, man. These would go a little bit darker. And again, this will all be mimicked in Unity, right? Okay, now we can put that over here. This one is weird. We don't need that. We don't need that. That's weird. Mm. The idea. Yep, that's the idea. And then obviously you can bring these up to create a more foreground elements here. So I think what makes things look so good in Hollow Knight is foreground elements. Just having that everything's framed in with that dark vignette, you know? So that's the idea. Okay. And obviously, you know, I'm just double checking to see if I have all the assets I need. Something like that. Now, obviously, we'll have plenty of layers behind. So, like, for example, these little friends back here will be like this. You'll have a big fat layer back here that's blurred. Let's not do that. Let's do color overlay. There we go. That right there. Yeah. So we'll have this in the stuff like this in the background. That creates a ton of layering back here. You can just go real big with these assets, and you don't. It can be completely indistinguishable, because it's blurred. Do you see? And Unity is going to do the heavy lifting here with this. Okay. Bang. How are we feeling? Do we feel like we're on the right track? And then obviously you want to throw in, we're going to throw in some so there it is, and it's frozen now. But what you can do is add in a quick, and Hollow Knight does this all the time. Do another one here. And now we have this sort of God rays coming down. Merge. All right, guys, be sure to download that game kit below because it's going to help you tomorrow when we put these assets in our scene. I love you guys so much. It's a little much, honestly. I want it to look perfect here. There we go. I love you guys a lot. I'll talk to you later. Let me know of any questions you have. I'll see you in tomorrow's live stream. Cheers.